the Chamber of Commerce of the City of Cupertino does take great pride in letting you know that the featured speaker today, of course, is Wally Dean, Mayor of the City of Cupertino. He was selected to the Cupertino City Council in 1991. He is now serving his second term as mayor and in his 8th and final year as a member of the council. It is with great pleasure that I introduce to you the 1999 State of the Union Address.
How about them graphics? Only in Cupertino. You're not going to see that in Sunnyvale. Welcome, 1999. Can you believe it? The last year. The next millennium's about to begin, and we're here to enjoy it. What we're going to do today is somewhat similar to what we did 4 years ago. You're going to get to see the kids in the community. We're going to have 5 speakers, and then we have some technology awards. To start things off, a surprise. I'd like to call up to the front Mr. Bert Viskovich and Mr. Bob Cowan. Both these members of our staff have served for 30 years. Bob's just coming up on it. Bert is over it. Bert's really over it. What I'd like to say is thank you from the community, from the staff, from the other council members. That's the one advantage you have as mayor. You can get to create your own awards, and this is one that I think is very well deserved. When you look at the service to the city and you get to work with them, I think you'll truly appreciate their effort and their intent, and we do. I'd like to go on to the second category. You've probably read in the paper recently that 2 kids started a company with $1,500 5 years ago. 5 years ago. Last month, it was announced that At Home would acquire Excite. $6.7 billion. These kids in $1,500 just made a hell of a lot of money. A lot of money. Another analogy in the old days that we would look at was the sports environment. The example would be Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan makes, when he plays, $300,000, or when he played, $300,000 a game. If he played 30 minutes, that's $10,000 a minute. He had an endorsement contract of $40 million a year plus his salary. He would sit there every day in and day out, and make $178,000 a day. If he slept 7 hours, that's $52,000. If he watched Friends on television, he just made $3,700. If you took all the presidents that have served the United States and doubled their salaries, Michael Jordan made more. That's fairly significant. But there's a catch to this story. If Michael Jordan saved every penny of this salary and commission, didn't spend it on taxes, did nothing, it would take him 270 years to have the same net worth as Bill Gates. And that's why we're going to have a technology award. I'd like to call from Fremont High School, Mr. Kyle Strum. His nickname is Smiley. He created Fremont's website, and he trained the technology instructors. He's also the youngest member of the 5 candidates selected. Congratulations. Notice the attire. Perfect. Look that way. Smile. Wave. Wave. There you go. You'll see why. We have some people coming up. You won't have to tell them that. Our second recipient from Homestead High School, Mr. Rory Loeb, nicknamed Mac Daddy. He's a system admin at Homestead High School. He's also on the Sunnyvale's Public Safety and Admin internet site. Stand next to each other. Good. Our next recipient from Monta Vista High School, Alan Busby, nicknamed Skippy. That's his attention span. He works at the city of Cupertino as an intern. He also volunteers around the community helping out. Excellent person. Our fourth recipient from Cupertino High School, Yosin Lin, the doctor. I first met Yosin when he was in an 8th grade. He was working on his associate arts degree in college in the 8th grade. His plan at that time was when he graduated from high school, he would graduate from college same year. Then he got the Stanford bug. He's going to go into Stanford upon graduation as a junior. Yosin Lin, a player. From Monta Vista, David Wortham, nicknamed Liposuction. He's a Mac-based, and the reason it's liposuction is if you have a meal around him, and these kids have, they cover their food. He can get a piece of food down faster than lightning. Liposuction is volunteered in the community on the Mac-based side, active participating in his school and the City Hall. With that, I'd like to present you people with your plaques. Sit. Good job, guys. Congratulations. As in years past, when we started the State of the City speech, I had one event that I thought was critical, and that was to hear what the kids were saying as a barometer in our community. Their perception on what's going on in the city, the state, the union, but I wanted their perception. The first time we did this, what was intimidating is the 5 speakers we chose were a heck of a lot better than I was. Across the board, I'm sitting there going, geez. I thought it was so invaluable that I've invited another 5 back. To start things off, from Cupertino High School, our first speaker, Mr. Macy Armstrong.
Practicing for this speech, the mayor told all the student speakers here today with a small chuckle, "Don't worry about it. All the audience will be doing is looking on you as if you were the symbols of the future of Western civilization." No pressure there. Sitting home preparing today's words, I thought about what the mayor had said and considered the ramifications. What if every individual in this community thought that the Western world hinged on their words? I asked myself. Far too often in life, there are those who prefer to stand silently by, because after all, what does one vote matter? Unfortunately, it is precisely the "I'm only one voice shouting in a crowded room" mentality that is eroding today's communities. Despite or perhaps because of high-density living, growing diversity, and communications technology that allows us to reach anywhere, at any time, people seem to be retreating from the public and putting up walls faster than ever before. Apathy is the largest problem that cities like Cupertino face today, but recent events have shown me the light at the end of the tunnel. The past 2 years have been for Cupertino a large step in the right direction. Several projects in the schools and in other parts of the community have introduced those to the public decision-making process that probably never before had given involvement a second thought. Early this year, I had the opportunity to work with the Public Dialogue Consortium, a nonprofit group that held a series of discussion groups to determine the needs of Cupertino teens. By completion of the project, the diverse group of teens and adults had come to one conclusion. It was that for the first time, they felt like participants in, not observers of, the community. After the process, one teen approached me. "I have never had an experience quite like that before," she said. "I felt like someone actually cared what I had to say, and like I cared what I had to say." She wasn't alone in her opinions. Similar projects all over the city have brought Cupertino to the dawn of a new age of public participation and involvement. If the city is to adopt one driving theme for its continued development in the next millennium, it needs to be returning democracy to the hands of the masses. Sincere attempts need to be made to foster a sense of proactiveness in all levels of the community, those who work, live, attend school, and even shop in the city of Cupertino. Trends set in the end of the second millennium need to be our guiding light in the third, as the public and private sectors come together to build a new community with the help of every individual. In this new era, even one silent voice threatens to close the gates to greatness before which Cupertino stands. Thank you.
Did I tell you? Heck of a lot better than anything I can do. Good job. Good job. What we're going to start off with today is the financial report of the city. When I started this job, computers weren't really that in vogue. When we started getting involved in the networks, then all of a sudden you could have a computer, but were you on the internet? And at the times when it started, we were looking at maybe 25, 28% of the citizens on the internet. Today, 79% of all Cupertino citizens are on the internet. The business on the internet sales for this closing year of 1998 was $43 billion sold on the net. At close of this year, they expect to get $109 billion sold through this means. Where you start to get really stand back and look is in the year 2003, the minimum projection for sales on the internet is $1.3 trillion, and that's a conservative number. The highest we've seen is $3.5 trillion. Now, what does that do to a city? What does that do to the merchants in the city? The whole paradigm of business is about to change. In 1999, the significant year here is you will see the trend outside the U.S. of more computer users worldwide than currently are in the U.S. So the market sources that we have available when you come online will now be selective to price, availability. It's going to change everything. And that puts more pressure on the cities and the merchants as we stand. The latest example I can cite, and it's one of ours, we've lost 3 bookstores. 3. Clean, Well-Lighted Place, Crown Books, and B. Dalton's. This was caused by a company, a small company, 300,000 square foot warehouse, but on the internet, Amazon.com. Their fourth quarter sales this last year were $250 million, 300,000 square foot warehouse. At Christmas time, they shipped 7.5 million items through that warehouse. That's more than they shipped in all of 1997. There is an explosion in this technology. There's an explosion in the median of this technology, and it's going to affect all of us. The only remaining store in Cupertino right now is Stacy's, and I applaud them. Please hang on, we need you. The upside for Cupertino in the technology bed is we're here, and so are the companies that created the trend. The online sales potential for the Cupertino city, and I need to stress potential. That's like semi-pregnant, potential. Rational Software, probably an unheard of name in our community, but they're here. Their fourth quarter sales were $109 million, fourth quarter sales, up 33% from the previous quarter. Apple, we've heard of Apple. One Mac is sold every 15 seconds of every minute, of every hour, of every day, of every week, of every month for the entire last quarter. Apple's on fire. They have retail outlets. What if they had direct online sales? Do you know what that would do to the city of Cupertino? That's the things we're looking at. Hewlett-Packard, $12.2 billion in the last quarter with net profits of $710 million. Compact, this just came in yesterday, $10.8 billion with fourth quarter profits of $758 million. The numbers are huge. Symantec in the software right across from City Hall. Third quarter numbers, $165 million with net income of $23.8. Do you know what a city would do with that? That would run the soccer fields, that would run the parks, that would run a pool center. Untapped resources. It's close, but yet so far. As we look at the high side and the potential, we also need to look at what current retail situations are in the city of Cupertino. Times, they are a-changing. We need to rethink our message on retail sales. I want to show you two charts. This is Valco. This is our plumed horse. That's not going up. And what we need to do is we have to find a way to make it turn around. The second slide that you'll see, and this is brutal. You see the Valco numbers on the right, Valley Fair, Stanford Shopping Center, and then the Western U.S. average, the average. We need to work on that. Identify the problem, be aware the city will support Valco in any way we can that's feasibly makes sense, but we're notified of the problem. Now, once we've recognized the problem, what are our competitors doing? Stanford Shopping Center, they're committing $342 million to a redevelopment plan of the Stanford Shopping Center. The Stanford Shopping Center, widening the road, adding housing on, and an additional retail space for that center. Sunnyvale, our buddies in Sunnyvale, $60 million renovation. New high-end retail, 20 screen theaters, 800 new jobs, and $100 million projected in new retail sales. Additional space, 300,000 square feet. Town and Country, they're tearing down Town and Country. They're going to rebuild $250 million, combined retail and residential. Valley Fair, complete revamping, increasing the space to 20% more retail space. That's what's around us. That's what we have to deal with. We go in with our eyes open. Now, let's look at Cupertino sales trends, all groups. This is industrial and retail. Looking at it like that looks pretty good. Let's take a closer look. The first chart you'll see, the first dip, is where the Emporium closed in 1995, 1996. Retail sales were flat. The next bug, Valco's in decline. This is an Apple clone manufacturer decided to move out because of the problems with Apple. We hit the bottom. The next bug, this is when the city went into Apple and signed an incentive agreement. And we wish we could get Hewlett-Packard and a few other players on board on that same agreement. But you can see the definite trend is up. The next bug is the Macy's opens at Valco. We had the Sears home store down below. Very good reception on those. And we had new businesses targeted to go into the site. Right now, it's a 50% hardcore lease, 25% part-time, 25% vacancy. We need to correct that. In the next segment, the sales tax breakdown by segment. When I first got on board in this city, that retail number, 37.4, used to almost be 50%. That's a major change. What you're seeing now is a business-to-business segment dominating the entire matrix. That's a major change. We need to identify why, and we need to get a constant source on that number. Sales tax trends as a whole. This is on the retail side. This is important. If you look with the inflation factor with the green line, don't get sucked in on the gross numbers, the net, we're going in the wrong way. We need to turn that around as a city. Expenditure trends with an inflation factor. This is from 91 through 98. And what's significant is if you look at 91 and then you look at the green line on 98, there's not a lot of difference. We need to address a way to go niche marketing, if nothing else. We need to find the consumer for our product. And we'll get into that later on during the presentation. The city The city's first blip on there, you can see the 3% inflation rate with the red line. The city's expenditures are on the yellow line. The first hit that we have coming up is where we added staff to the 1992-1993 level. And that was done in 98, 99. We also increased the new parklands and recreation buildings and also median maintenance. So those were heavy hits, and that's why the spike went up. Our next revenue source is property tax. That's us on the far right. The little teeny weeny 2 cents of every dollar, City of Cupertino. There's other organizations in the room that have bigger stacks than us. Our stack's down on the right. What that means to the property owner, if we can go to the next one, your average bill that we get, the city, if you're paying just under $10,000 in property tax, we get $213. $213. That's important to know. Transient occupancy tax, the hotels. As part of the last development, the city mandated the developer to build the hotel first instead of the apartment buildings. What does that mean to us? The revenue generated on that hotel is the equivalent to what Mountain View is getting for a Costco. So we have a choice of, do we go to the heavy retail route, heavy Costco, or do we look at net dollars returned and go to the hotel? Our choice was the hotel, and I think it's a very successful choice. The general fund. The only thing I can show you here is the blips are caused by portions of income, the latest being the water lease. Okay, that's on the far right. That was $8 million plus $2 million in reserve funds that were brought into our treasury. The other change, the two smaller lines there, we used to have a 100% reserve question, and that's why you'll see some of the differences in the yellow lines. We brought that down from a bookkeeping standpoint to 75% year, major change. Now, the last 6 charts are 3 good and 3 bad. These are trend setters that marketing people look at and economists. Software jobs, software jobs. This valley started on hardware jobs. The change is going. It's a continuous flow. Startup jobs, it's hot. There's no question. This is what's driving the valley. The wages. Look at where Silicon Valley is compared to USA. We're way ahead of it. We know we're ahead of it. There's a special group of people that are living here, a better educated group of people here. We understand that. Now let's look at the trends that may be the flicker on the horizon. Job growth has slowed. How do we handle that? The income gap has widened. This is 5 segments. The only segment that's going up is the very wealthiest. And that's the upper fifth. Everything else is status quo. We're not seeing the growth in the supporting segments to offset the top one. And one that I don't have to tell anybody about, the traffic around this Bay Area is coming to a grinding stop. What it all boils down to is the city is in good financial shape, but we must keep our eyes focused. With that, I'd like to introduce our second speaker from Lynbrook High School, Ankur Bahl.
I remember when I was younger, I used to watch the cartoon show, The Jetsons. Yeah, I'm still young, but it works. I used to watch the cartoon show, The Jetsons, every morning at 9. I was fascinated by the flying cars, floating houses, and the robot maids. But one part of this cartoon always perplexed me. In a world full of technology, advancement, and prosperity, every morning on his way to work, George Jetson would get stuck in traffic. Though these people had technological wonders to even baffle the high-tech individuals of the Silicon Valley, the traffic jam couldn't be avoided. And this forced me to ask the question, is this society truly better than the one I live in? Like the people in space, we on Earth must also ask ourselves the question, whether the changes we decide to make are truly leading to progress. As the fictional stories of the Jetsons become more and more like the facts of our time, we must stop to check on the traffic and to see whether our road to success is clear of obstructions. It is often said that our society is progressing, but how is this progress measured? We seem to have defined progress as the amount of money we make or the number of technological gadgets we implement. But when we notice that these things simply lead to our lethargy and eat away at the moral and ethical fabrics of our lives, it's not progress, but a regression. For example, take genetic engineering of children. It seems like we're trying to create a master race of perfect people, like Hitler did during World War II. Take the internet. Though it provides us with the amount of information of any library, it also provides our children with pornography and recipes for bombs. Finally, take email. Though it brings the world closer together, we can write out whatever we need to say, and interpersonal relationships have been reduced to a minimum. Though I'm not trying to say that technology is bad, all I'm trying to say is that there is such a thing as too much technology. One of my colleagues at the Lynbrook High School newspaper, The Epic, has a prediction for 1999. He says that Microsoft will come up with a new computer that escapes the power of the Y2K bug. It won't have a screen, and it'll be called the MS typewriter. As the leaders of the technological world, we must lead the way and show that we must strengthen our ethical and moral fibers instead of tearing them apart. We must approach the millennium with great care. Because like the Jetsons, we will always have traffic jams, but we can trade in a few of our technological gadgets for the moral and ethical ideals we must uphold. Because life without a Molly maid who is a robot will not be so bad. But a life without these ideals is simply unacceptable. Thank you.
Did I tell you? These kids are hot. This segment is called City and Change. And like anywhere else, I think the council sits down and reviews kind of a little bit everything. First thing that came up is our logo. It's on your little collector's item today. That is not a snail shell. I know, we've heard it. Okay, it's not a snail shell. So we started out on a quest. How do we change the logo and the identity of the city? We need to keep it in the same format. This was the first one. Looks like a snail. We needed to add something a little conquistadorish. We did, square behind it, different font style. We ended up with, we needed to show a three-quarter view. We needed to show something. This is not the final one, but it's the closest one that has the majority of the council. What we need to do is bring into line maybe some colors, maybe some different shapes on the helmet, but that's what we're looking to start off with the year 2000 for the state, for the city of Cupertino's logo. With that, City and Change, the commitment to technology. I think you've all seen it. When I first started here, we had computers in the office. They weren't hooked up to each other. Now, at City Hall, every machine is online. We have a web page. It's a very positive experience. And that came under the Tech 2000 Commitment to Technology plan by the city. A new piece of technology that we're playing with right now is a voice recognition system. Pretty avant-garde. A project that we've been working on for 4 years, extremely frustrating project, is the GIS and electronics record search. The software has changed. The idea is you can go to any parcel, pull up the information. If you want to know where a pipeline is, a wire, underground plumbing, it would be in the sensor. And that's what we're trying to bring up to the public so it will not be corrupted and it is a secure environment. Online business permits. This is something that we've played with for a long time. We had interactive forums on CityNet, and it was extremely successful. We need to graduate from that to the city, and that's being done right now. The last is a piece of technology that started here in Cupertino, the Metrocom wireless system. What we're proposing right now is our on-site inspectors have the capability through their power books to go out and do on-site inspections immediately and get the data from City Hall on the spot. We think that's a value-added service to the populace, and it's a heck of a lot better than the file papers and the boxes and all that from the city side. We think that's state-of-the-art. The next thing that we've jumped into is landscaping. In the past several months, you've noticed all Stevens Creek buzz with trees. We've planted 500 trees so far. We expect to plant 500 more by the end of June. It's a commitment to the city. We've also done the De Anza median landscaping, and that was a combined project with the City of Cupertino and the City of San Jose. We've replanted the Varian Park. It was an old orchard, a lot of fruit trees. They had to come out. We replanted the entire thing. Again, a commitment to the community. We dedicated Creekside Park, and we feel it's going to be one of the best community youth sport parks around. We also made the commitment to the houses that are along the street there to acquire those houses. Now, the sign ordinance. We took very aggressive steps into kind of cleaning up our city. We're the only one around that even attempted to do it. As you can see, that's what it used to look like. To me, that's not acceptable. This is the before and after picture. You choose. Which one would you want? I support the clear one that seems to hold water. The next project that we've entered into, and we've all entered into it, is the TCI program. Through the month of December, that was the final development program. There were a lot of hiccups in the system. They were bringing an analog system up to a fiber-based system. There's still some bugs to be worked out, but we're so close. We're so close. The add-on here is what you're about to see, other than the clarity of the picture and the good quality of the service, is at home. I would guesstimate in 3 months, you will have the capability at fiber speeds to have the at-home system in your house or office. This will be followed up by something completely new. I would say 3 to 6 months after at home, look for a fiber phone system. The city participates in that. Support it. Change in the cities. Parks and Recreation Department. Our in-school program is going to take a little different step. We're going to go from the in-school program to an after-school program. We're also going to go to weekends and drop-in programs. Our Public Works Department. The Graffiti Cleanup Task Force, which is really operating, they're doing a good job. Getting a response at about 36 hours, we're going to try to cut that down to 24 hours. Eliminate the graffiti. Got it, Bert? Eliminate the graffiti. We're going to, as you know, we repaved De Anza Boulevard. One section was right, one section was wrong. A little rough. It was a training mission. That will be repaved, and this commitment of $500,000 to do it. Stevens Creek Boulevard, from Foothill to Lawrence, in the next 12 months will be repaved. Those of you who have seen Foothill Expressway, that PG&E's now trenched it, that will be corrected also. We're going to upgrade the traffic signals, the interconnect systems on De Anza, Stevens Creek, Wolf, Homestead, and that will be completed in the fall of '99. We're going to computerize the entire control system for the signals. And in Monta Vista, the wires that are hanging overhead from Bub to Orange will be underground. And with that, I would like to introduce our third speaker from Homestead High School, Miss Sujata Ganpule.
Society today is more competitive than ever. Whether it be high school students competing for a CCS victory or a small company trying to make its mark amongst its competitors, competition is what drives our society. As the new millennium approaches, many in our community will view this time as a chance to move ahead and strive to be the best. I encourage every individual to proceed with the greatest of speed, but at the same time, I encourage every individual in this process to stop and take a moment to think of exactly who is benefiting from all of this contention and undertaking. If it is simply the individual, then I ask you to consider the possibility that something is wrong. It is my opinion that one of our goals for the new millennium should be to take our great desire to compete and succeed and direct it towards something that we can all benefit from. So many of us are caught up in competing and working hard to succeed that we forget about what makes us who we are. We forget about what makes this city what it is. What makes and will continue to make the city of Cupertino successful is not its size, its infrastructure, or how many office buildings it happens to have. None of this matters without the commitment and standing of its people. More particularly, it is their culture, their energy, their commitment, and their sense of community that helps add to the city. There are many things that will happen in this city come the new millennium. It will continue to be great, continue to expand, but most importantly, its people will continue to work together. Competition is great. Competition leads to success. We can all be successful as long as we remember that ultimately, it is the good of society that matters over anything else. And although in the future our city may rank amongst the biggest in the world, we should remember that size is not what drives us. It is not our dream to be the biggest. No, it is our dream to be only the best, the most inspirational, the most creative. So as you hear today plans to expand the city of Cupertino, I'd like you to think about where the money is going, what is being built, and who it is helping. The best thing we can hope for is that, in the end, everyone benefits. Our greatest challenge is to keep our city special, unique, and constantly changing. We as a community must compete and at the same time work together to make this dream come true. Thank you.
Nice job. This section's decisions. Each council member is faced with a quandary of problems and challenges. The ones that were presented to the council this year started off with the senior center. The budget projections at that time were $1 million for the proposed project. Last week, we had our last council meeting. The new number went from $1 million to $4.5 million. 15,000 square feet, brand new building. With that, you'd have a 3,200 square foot reception hall, large classes, theatrical and music presentations, private parties, community rooms, and events. You'd have a 2,000 square foot exercise and movement room, a fitness program, dance classes, and yoga. You'd also have arts, crafts, technology labs, and consulting offices. That's what's coming down the pike. That's what was proposed to us. The vote was 5-0 on the council. The next challenge that we faced was the library. The initial projections on the library expansion were $6 million. Bert's latest number, $25 million for a new library. The positive side on this is the original plans called for the library to be put on that field, the only open field in that scenario. We said no. It's not the library's problem, it's our problem. We'd like to save the field, move the facility between the current library and City Hall, and that was a plan that was adopted. The current library system as it stands right now is the largest circulation in all the county. What we're going to do is move to a proposed 70,000 square foot environment from a current 37,000 square foot environment. I think the size we'll finally end up with will be somewhere in a smaller spatial requirement, somewhere in maybe the 60s. The major components of the new library will meet the needs of the community for the next 20 years. It'll improve interior traffic flow. It'll increase work staff area. It will provide advanced wiring for future technology and provide flexibility to adapt to future needs. The proposed D-Day is 2002. One of the benefits with this project is being able to work with an outstanding group of people in the library. The Santa Clara Library System was nominated in the top 10 nationally for outstanding performance, and I applaud them. Susan Fuller, Librarian of the Year, another outstanding, and that's why she's not here today. She's receiving her award. Congratulations to Susan. One of the other projects that we have in decisions is the Stocklemeyer property. As you're going up Stevens Creek, when you have past the little golf course there, the Stocklemeyer property is on the left-hand side. It's a 5-acre parcel that's right next to Blackberry Farms. We feel it's critical to the space acquisition plan. We can expand Blackberry Farms picnic area and retreat facility, and also it's an important link to the Stevens Creek Trail route. Regional trails, as you can see, we're extremely active in that regard, and we fully support it. We have the Stevens Creek Trail, the Deanza Historical Trail, the Calabasas Creek Trail, and San Thomas Aquino Saratoga Creek Trail, and we will support that. The last thing on our decisions list is the sports center and how we utilize it. We have a lot of open space there. We have a very active swim program, very active tennis program, and an over-rambunctious weightlifting exercise program downstairs. What we would be looking for is an expansion into the open space of 1,100 square feet for the exercise program. With that, I'd like to introduce the fourth speaker from Fremont High School, Miss Ebony Winston.
As we approach the new millennium, we approach an era of change, where the future depends on the present, and the present depends on my generation. Where are we now, and where will we be? Who are we, and who will we become? We are the future, though you may only look at us as children. But if you look closely, with an open mind, you will see that the children who stand before you today are silent representations of the important figures who will stand before you tomorrow. It is important to educate us and to guide us, but even more so, it is important to hear us. We have dreams, we have goals, we have talent, we have intellect, we have desires, we have unique perspectives, and we have a voice. So now I ask that you listen and provide me, a student, a chance to share my vision. The opportunities of the future could be endless, whether it be through technology, politics, education, community, or business. But it would take the trust and genuine respect of the older population for the younger population to make it where we want to be. Imagine the possibilities. If you give students a chance to independently develop the skills necessary to acquire a successful future, then we can begin to provoke and promote change now. It is one investment that you should be willing to make. Think of the empowerment behind student voice. It not only strengthens the student, but it also strengthens the community as a whole and marks a bold and positive impact on society. For example, each school in the Fremont Union High School District has had a chance to experience the renowned Camp Anytown. This camp focuses on the positives of diversity and other everyday issues which are never directly discussed in classrooms. It allows the participants a chance to find themselves and expand their comfort zone as they share their most personal thoughts. They go in there not knowing what to expect. They leave with the passion to share everything they've learned with both their peers and their community. You see, student voice is creative and powerful. It provides another outlet besides just talking to our friends in everyday situations for us to express our thoughts and our views on how this world works. We may be a younger generation, but we are affected by the same issues that you are, and we are still valuable assets to the decision-making in this society. So I ask again, where are we now? We are at a stage in our lives where we are learning to be independent thinkers and positive contributors to this society. Where will we be? Will we become those positive contributors and continue to create positive change in a larger context as we are beginning to do so now? Who are we? We are the children of the future. And who will we become? We will become those leaders of tomorrow, and we will provide our ideas and thoughts to create positive progression for the generations who will follow us. We sat here today and we've talked about all the decisions and politics that go into building this community, into buying unowned property, and into making investments for the future. Now I ask that you look away from what will make up the future and look at who will make up our future, and know that one day these decisions will no longer be in your hands, but in mine.
I told you. This section is called the remaining pieces, and we're going to start with Cupertino zoning. In the early days when people moved here, the average lot size was about 10,000 square feet. The houses at the time were about 2,000, 2,200 square feet, no problem. Big lot, house was normal, but as time went on, that lot required a larger house, and they got bigger, and they got bigger, and they got bigger. This caused some surrounding problems. All of a sudden, was it an issue of owner's rights to be able to build whatever he wanted, or this imposition, as you can see on some of the houses here, to a next-door neighbor? There has to be a balancing act, and that's what we're working on. The Planning Commission has submitted to Council that we'll get next week several new outlooks on life. They will limit the height of a second-story wall. That's a change. They will limit or start counting, the high volume ceiling, where it just keeps going up and up, that will start to count as the FAR for square footage. You'll start to see a trend for first and second story limitations of the first floor being 65% of the property and the second story being 35% of the property. Smaller, smaller, smaller. We want to give you the same square footage, but we want to reapportion it. The other change that they're presenting to council is a change on the FAR completely. On the small lots, at a 6,000 square foot lot, you will still have an FAR of 45%. The proposal presented to council, if you have a 10,000 square foot lot, the proposal is suggesting 37.5%. That's what's coming down, that's what we'll be discussing in the community, and we want your input. Now, the remaining pieces along Stevens Creek. We have a great big open space there. At Christmas time, tree sales, it's great. What that size is a computer site. That is the same size as downtown Los Gatos. That's what's coming. Tandem originally said they would have a plan to us. That did not happen. Compact has given us the same commitment. So right now, we're waiting and watching. Another piece of property that we're looking at is the McDonald Dorset piece of property. That's just on the other side of Deep Cliff Golf Course and just below the dam. That currently is zoned between 10 and 15 houses on 128 acres. What we're trying to work out as a city is to come up with a common goal to obtain the majority of that space for open space. Kaiser, now the Hampton Cement Company. The picture you'll see is gorgeous rolling hills. If you're new to this area, in the early 90s, Kaiser presented a plan, 3,300 houses, 4 golf courses. Whichever team is representing the city council, I don't think that idea is dead. The city has to be aware of it. Don't close your eyes. We have been approached by the Cupertino Unified School District to go on a joint project on a mega gym. Total cost of the gym is $4.2 million, which the city's share is requested to be $2 million. It would provide a regulation basketball court and 4 practice courts, 2 regulation volleyball courts and 3 badminton courts, and several rooms for recreation classes and teen drop-in programs. On another issue, Parks and Recreation program, from an operational side, will become self-sufficient. Decisions. With that, I'd like to introduce our 5th speaker from Monta Vista High School, Mr. Brian Dong.
In the summer of 2000, the eyes of the leadership community will be on the Santa Clara County for the National NASC Conference. This conference will be hosted by the Fremont Union High School District and be held at Monta Vista High School in Cupertino, California. Over 1,500 high school student leaders and 500 adult advisors from all 50 states, Guam, Puerto Rico, Canada, and Australia will come to Monta Vista to participate in leadership workshops, motivational seminars, and a variety of other life-changing activities. As we approach the new millennium, the technology has become the major role in our lives. The advancement of technology has become especially prevalent in our city and area. That is why California and Cupertino has been chosen to host this conference after a 30-year absence. We have become the leader for the future because Cupertino and the Silicon Valley have advanced so much that a strong base has already been built, a base that is ready to support a brand new structure. In the year 2000, not only will Cupertino be on display, but also the idea of advancement and technology as a whole. We have become the forefront of technology, and it is fitting that we show where we're headed to these bright and intelligent students. This is the opportune time to start the new millennium with our future student leaders. That is why it is fitting that we share our newfound technology with others of this great country. This conference is a major national event and therefore requires much financial support. In order to put on this conference, the Fremont Union High School District and Monta Vista High School need the support of the community. Corporations and businesses are needed to help finance parts of the conference, such as guest speakers, meals, and facility fees. As you were entering this afternoon, you received an informational brochure with more details about the conference and an insert for corporations and businesses to become more directly involved with the conference. After this afternoon's program, my adult advisor and I will be able to answer any questions that you may have. This conference is truly a life-changing experience that will not only involve Monta Vista High School and the Fremont Union High School District, but also the entire Santa Clara County. Thank you.
Our last category, future projects. The one that jumps out at me right off the top is we may have to sit down and rethink government. We need to partner with other agencies. We need better communications between city, county, and state. We need to combine school yards, corporation yards, city yards, and county yards to one force. Sunnyvale has combined the fire department and their police department as a single source entity, and it seems to be working. The libraries of tomorrow won't be cloned. I think they have to look at getting together. We need to rethink government. An example of rethinking is the former Sirens Cafe, right on the street. It doesn't fit the architecture of the city. The challenge for the city on this project is to get the landowner in sync with, they've already had developers request, just to move it back. That has not been successful. We need to make it successful. With regard to retail space for future projects, the old style needs to change. We have longtime owners that sit there and just take the checks from the tenants. That needs to change. With the internet competition, it must be a value-added environment. You have to recognize the problem. The upgrade in the retail structure at McWhorter's is a classic example. Outstanding job. A scenario to make you understand is when the video stores first came out, the movie houses thought they were going to go broke. Now you can go down to a store, buy the video, shove it in there, and you can watch the movie. That didn't happen. And the reason it didn't happen was the theaters were providing the value-added social environment, food. It was an excuse to get out. The merchants of the city have to get on that same wavelength. The city will do whatever it can to help you in that mode. City densities. This is a never-ending question. How much is too much? Do we build out? Do we build up? Do we hold our own? One example that we're going to watch very closely is on Wolf Road. In that area, we've just put in 2 first-class hotels. One had been there before with another new one. We also added 550 apartment units. We have a completely redone shopping center, and Hewlett-Packard just added on 300,000 square feet of new working space. If there was ever a test envelope, that's the area, Wolf Road. We'll watch it. Sense of arrival. Where is Cupertino? Put your seatbelts on, kids. When you look at the Stevens Creek layout, you'll notice that we have a new apartment complex right on Stevens Creek just before Lawrence. And if you pick up the brochures, it's a gorgeous facility, huge, and it says Cupertino on it. We didn't know anything about it. That was San Jose. They forgot to tell us, they changed the zoning, and they built this monolith. That hurt. That absolutely hurt. What followed that is the active annexation of Rancho Rinconada. 325 acres, 1,572 properties, 4,200 residents, and 66% of them said, yes, we want to join Cupertino. That was important. The next challenge that the city is facing is Garden Gate. It's a county section that had old county zonings, and you had new people moving in. And you had a conflict between the old residents and all of a sudden these monoliths that were built up. It's 112 acres, there's 372 parcels, the average size is a 10,000 square foot house, and the population's right around 1,000. Hopefully they will see the light and join the city of Cupertino. This one you need to sit down on. In the early 1980s, the city and the residents of San Jose in that section petitioned the city of Cupertino to join. They wanted to come on board. The numbers that signed were the equivalent of in excess of 90%. If you look at the map, you'll notice all those schools are Cupertino schools. The high school, Lynbrook, is a Fremont Union school. That's us. That's us. The council at the time in San Jose saw only one thing, and that was the retail strip right there. And they said, not a chance to lose that retail dollar. We're not going to do it. And they turned the thing down. If you look at the business environment now, it has changed. And the amount of revenue generated from that shopping center, I'm sure, does not cover the expenses for that area. But when you talk of a sense of arrival, would that be the missing ingredient for the city of Cupertino? You come off Highway 85, you're in Cupertino. We would have standardized signs, ordinances. We would have trees and landscaping that would be from Highway 280 to Highway 85, from Lawrence Expressway to Foothill. A sense of unity. This would give us clear-cut boundaries for the city of Cupertino and the sense of arrival we need. This is only a proposal. We have the years ahead to work on it. Think about it, though. In summary, the city is in fine, sound financial shape. The education system is one of the highest in the nation. The businesses that surround us are leading the world into the next millennium. And you can definitely say we have the smartest kids on the entire planet.